Hello there, outliers. Niiamah Chong here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey here. I say this and I honestly mean it because letting me be a part of your journey is something that is an ongoing thing. We continue to step up and continue to level up. And as I have these conversations, you're also hearing me on a journey. And I don't hide that. There's an ongoing growth journey that takes place. And we do this, we showcase it because this is a parallel to the experiences that we all have as outliers going on to trailblaze our own way and to shape the world in the way that only we can. I love to focus on areas here in the Outliers Edge podcast where we continuously help to push the limits of what you feel is possible and really realistically um, just really just like grease the path for you to step into your next level. I often say we focus more on helping you get move upwards than to move forwards. And today we have someone, a featured outlier here on the podcast who's all about continuously moving upwards, continuously playing the game at the next level and never stops that growth journey himself. It's Vincent Monteleone. Vincent, did I get your last name proper? I want to make sure I get that right first.
Yeah, Monteleone, Monteleone, Monty for short. Whatever you guys are feeling, as long as you're coming to say hello, I'm cool with the way anybody pronounces it.
All right, well, we're good. So I want to make sure I get that Vincent Monteleone. And Vincent, even just here, right? You've already given us a chance to get to see like how you show up in the world. So thank you for this year. Vincent runs something called Bookshelf Brilliance, and I can't wait to like dive into that and more from you. Um, and as we get started our conversation, I like to just spend some time letting you know how you showed up for me. You good with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And thank you for reaching out and for having me. Super excited to be part of this.
I'm so glad you said yes. Is the reality of this year. I've really been enjoying getting to know you, and I think that I'm excited for the opportunity to take that further and have it be useful on behalf of outliers. So the thing about you, Vincent, what comes up for me is I feel like um, the way I would describe it, there's something that I've been thinking about, which is casual epicness. Casual epicness, right? I feel that like the games that you choose to play, the way that you go about life, the way that you hold yourself and others up, like there's a standard to it that seeks epicness, that like seeks a greatness there, but at the same time, like you're cool about it, you know? Like we could chill. And I think there's something really in that juxtaposition of both of those elements together that make for something awesome. And yeah, you're someone I know I can like play like just keep growing with and having that like and at the same time not have it have to feel heavy. But but at this but and I make sure I have this button there because I'm so used to environments where things are like, hey, like yeah, there's a heaviness to growth. And I feel like you're able to play on both ends here. And so I wanted to say thank you for being you. That's who you've been for me so far. And
Um,
I get excited to see even more of you from here.
you're making me blush a little bit, but I'm glad I came off that way. I just always try to remain authentic and be a nice, genuine person who, I got to make mama proud, right? I can't make her she raised a good guy, hopefully.
Mm, mm. Well, thanks for bringing that, and thanks for using that to keep growing yourself and others. So Vincent, like this is how I've seen you here. I want to give some space here to for you to speak yourself into this room and give us a chance to get to know you personally and professionally. And my invitation here is that you give us context. Don't hold back. We have a thing in our world where we enter the brag zone, and typically what happens there is like it's not bragging if it's true. And then the other side of it here is just like we just really want to get a chance to see you so that we can play at the highest levels with you, rather than like, playing in like the little leagues because that's what's there, right? So just give us a chance to get to know you here. I'm thrilled to give Outliers a chance to see that side of me.
Yeah, no. And again, thank you for the opportunity. So, I'm Vincent Monteleone, just a regular guy like any one of you that just has really a passion around continuous learning, and I loved what you said about growth journey, because I think of life as kind of a growth journey. If you're not continuing to learn, you're really doing yourself a disservice, and maybe falling behind, not even just professionally, but just keeping up with the little ones that you have in your life. I would be remiss if I didn't mention first, my main job is being a dad to two little girls. I have a 5 and a 2-year-old, and being a good husband to their mom, my wife. So that's what really keeps me grounded, and wants me to keep learning and growing, so I could be the best man possible for them and my roles in their life. When it comes to Bookshelf Brilliance, I've always had a creative element to me. I always felt I had a voice that I'd love to share, because I love making connections with people like yourself. And this is one of those nice connections that brought into my life by having this creative avenue, having someone like you reach out, and we bonded over being, dads to little ones as well, and just being, guys, on a journey, looking to continue to learn with like-minded individuals. And I always had a passion for reading, and I love to read. I love to talk about books with people, but I know that sometimes there are people who don't classify themselves as readers. They don't have the time. Maybe they don't enjoy that form of media, which is totally okay. But I know that there are books that everybody has heard about, that have stood the test of time. And the inspiration for the first season was How to Win Friends and Influence People, because by Dale Carnegie. For those of you that don't know that book, I would assume you might have at least heard about it. A lot of people have heard that as a book they should read, and maybe they even bought it and it's collecting dust on a nightstand somewhere. But my goal was to create a new form of media where I can go chapter by chapter through those books, tell you what I learned from it, take out what I think are the key points. Obviously, it's biased through me and my trusty red pen that's underlining in the book, and really talk about how those lessons have had an impact on me, and how I brought them to my life in little bite-sized 15-minute episodes. So that's a little bit of me in a nutshell there.
I love it. I love it. Like, so Vince, I'm going to ask this question, and it's an innocent question, but at the same time, I
Yeah.
like there's a lot that can come from this year. Uh, when I hear about this, the thing that was going on in my mind right now was like, so what's the book that you're writing, or the book that you would want to write?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and maybe a leading one. So as you know, I am a published author. I wrote a book right after graduating from college. The book is titled Dying to Live, and this
Oh,
was a book that was really written from my heart and my soul, with really everything I had. I really bled into those pages in what I think is a good way. In that, I was 22, 23 when I finished writing the book, and it was something meant to keep me grounded as I go through life, as I grow in my career. And it it was a book that was really personal to me, that I felt maybe spoke to a lot of other people as well, going through a similar journey. So the inspiration behind the book, I was getting ready to graduate from college. I went to Baruch College in Manhattan, right in the heart of New York City.
I thought my mom went
And
there.
oh, did she?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like,
Proud
oh,
alums.
yes.
Bearcats. Yeah, and I worked 3 days a week for a company, and I was actually put helping them file a lot of their emails that they had reasons to keep. And 2 days a week I would go to Baruch, from like 7 a.m. to like 7:30 p.m. just classes straight up and down. I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday, delivered pizza some nights, and also on Saturdays, just really trying to hustle. And I started to realize the speed at which life can go as you start chasing goals. And when I got to the end of my college education, I didn't feel like I learned enough around, personal finance and nutrition, certain other things that I felt were important to um, our lives, everybody's lives, if, in my humble opinion. And secondly, like the only way that we classified success, it seemed, was through career success, through financial success, which are, of course, important barometers. But I wrote the book again because the main character of the book achieved success if you're using those as the only definitions. But the reasons why he worked so hard was what he actually sacrificed. So the family and passions and other things like that that made life worth living. And that was the inspiration behind the book. The theme of the book is right there in the name. The main character wants to know why he had to start dying in order to start living. Um, and
I gotta jump in on this one real quick here, Vincent, because I think that there are like outliers. Like, hey, go check out the book. Um, B, if any of you are feeling that right now, right? Feeling an element of hey, I'm creating the external success. And like if people looked at me on paper, they would think everything is great. But underneath that, like there's things going on in my family, there's things going on here, there's relationships that are being broken or things that are being unfulfilled. Like, hey, I just want to like call that into space, right? Because a lot of times we just start running, we start going, and we miss being able to see the opportunity that we have in our everyday life. And then like I want to breathe in. I want to just like I want to like if I could, I'll give you a big virtual hug right now.
yeah,
If that's taking place. Um, know that you're not alone. And Vincent, I'm glad that you wrote this book to like help people like see and slow down into this, you know.
yeah.
Um, can I ask you a
It's so
question?
easy to get caught in that trap of just, or the rat race as they call it, and you're spinning on a wheel and you're hitting goals, but you know, maybe short-term goals that are maybe putting things that you care about more at risk without you even seeing it.
As you say this, what's going for me is like I love looking for what makes people different, right? And then like turning that difference to like a 12 and just saying like, how do we help you be seen, celebrated, and valued for this, right? And what came up for me was like how choosing to have the external success and do it without sacrificing the inner success of stuff that people don't see, you know, how that in and of itself can make you an outlier. Like it's like an outlier writer. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, I can do all the things externally, and we have a great relationship. And my kid, like my kids are growing into something. Like there's something about that because a lot of like I had this thing that was holding me backwards. I don't think I told you. I think it still does work in different ways, but like this idea that like if I'm really successful, like externally successful, that my kids would grow up and they just want to grow up with great values, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it was just like the things that I was seeing on like in movies and such where I was like, oh, here goes some guy that's like gone through the process, got to success, marriage fell apart, and the kids suck. Like I wouldn't want to hang out with them, right? And like
Yeah.
and they're not able to like be successful on their own. And so I don't talk about that often, but I think that I'm glad you wrote what you wrote because it's something where I feel like it plays in the background a lot. It's one of those like hidden saboteurs that keeps me from choosing to always level up because I'm like, how do I do it and not miss out with the children?
Yeah.
You know?
It's a hard thing to balance, but what I think, in the culture that we kind of live in, I live in a big city, you see those fancy, stores, right, where there's luxury clothing, luxury cars and stuff, and we kind of measuring success on that. But as you mentioned, somebody may not have their home life in order. I like to judge myself on being able to, it may sound corny, but when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning or at night, like I got to be able to look that guy in the mirror and know, like, hey, I'm a good dude. If somebody bumps into somebody in my family and they mention that Vincent's their nephew or Vincent's their son, grandson, whatever, I don't have to be worried what somebody else is gonna say about me. So always emulating good character and things of that nature. That's truly important to me. And you can have both, but just there may be that promotion at work or that next step that you don't take because right now, like we mentioned, we have small children and it may be more beneficial because we want to coach a little league, right? And we wouldn't be able to do that. And your kid's only going to be small, and that's okay. And that's success. You define what success is for you. And if the alternative view is what you think is best for you and your family, that's totally okay too. We all can have different versions of success. But I felt that I was getting to the point where, at least for me, the impression I was getting was only, status, money, in career and financially that was going to define success. And I didn't want to let that define my life and my next step as I, grow older.
Yeah, I feel your intentionality. I feel like you're a man of deep character. Like in your responses here, there's a lot that's based in your values. And also I also see like the importance of family for you. Like even like because even like the representations that oh, this is this person's nephew, this person's son, right?
Yeah.
And I really got that was that like you show up in your world in a way that's like in integrity with that. I have a couple quick questions here. So you don't need to like, I don't know if this is like all right. So you talked about season one of Bookshelf Brilliance, right? I was curious about what season two may be. And I also
Yeah.
realized that so you can share it if you want. And like it could be, I don't know if it's an exclusive here. You heard it here, 34th, you know, like but I'm yes, I want an answer to that. But what was really playing out for me was, does Dying to Live have either a season or a podcast or an audio accompaniment of how you go down chapter by chapter, just like you did this you did with that? Does that exist yet? And if not,
That
please
that
create
does
it.
not exist, but that sounds, you just gave me a great idea there, and there's not much research I have to do there since the words are mine already, right? I could take as much liberty with them as I uh, as I kind of want there. As far as season two of Bookshelf Brilliance, it will be that you heard it here first, but it's actually sitting right up here. I read a book a couple of years ago now that I had to reread twice, and then I started a book club at my day job, the one that pays the bills, to actually read this book with other people. It's called Think Again by Adam Grant, and that's going to be what season two of Bookshelf Brilliance is. I think it's just a timely book, especially with how divisive the country or the US seems to be with right versus left, and we have a presidential election coming up that's very divisive as politics has transformed into. And what I loved about this book when I was reading it and was like while I'm reading it, I'm like, I got to read this again like immediately after. It's just too many good lessons. Was we're all very we all want everybody else to change their mind, but we don't want to change our mind most of the time. And there's new information. And right in the beginning of the book, he kind of talks about like, we don't run our computers on Windows 1998 anymore for a reason, right? So something you heard in 1998, like we have more information, we have more data, we can understand where things have changed. You're not going to be right on 100% of everything. And also that the underlying message of this book is we're all more the same than we're not. So even when we do have a difference of opinion, we're most of the time focusing only on those differences instead of all the commonalities that we have, that leads to this divisive nature that you see, whether whatever news outlet you see. It's not that the other side has a differing opinion. It's like they're the worst person that was ever held this office type of thing, and they're evil. Not that like, hey, yeah, we had a difference of opinion, but we both want the same thing for the country, like things like that. So I really wanted to unpack that, and I think it's very very timely. And I'm a huge Adam Grant fan myself. I think he's just a super smart dude who I would love to be able to get to meet one day. I don't know if you have any connections like that that you can make that happen for me.
I love that. And if I don't have the connection right now, so if I don't have the connection right now, um, it doesn't mean that outliers out here don't. So if you're cool with this, you might get bombarded over the next few years
Yeah.
with invitations around here. But let's make an ask here. Outliers, if there's something about Vincent, and like the way that Vincent shows up and where he like the both his character and the thing that he's trying to create that really call on you, and you have a connection to Dr. Adam Grant, like I invite you to make an invitation to Vincent to reach out, get to know him. You know, Vincent, my general thing here is some people might go and choose to connect you right directly. But what I would say is that like, and for anyone that's listening to this, it'll be it will continue to be beneficial to spend time with Vincent. I think like there's only growth that will come out of there. And Vincent, I can make that invitation to outliers on your behalf right now,
All right.
because of how you keep showing up, and I know
Thank you.
that, yeah. I've also played this game in my coaching circles, and when I lead different groups, and when I've also been led, where it's like we're actually much closer to what it is that we want than we may think. The number of times where we've been in rooms and people says, "Does anyone? I'm looking to accomplish this, or would like to be connected to this person. Does anyone know them?" And you see 5, 6 hands come in a room. And it's like, wow, we've gone from this space that was quite open to we've now been able to get there within 1 or 2 conversations. So I believe in the power of that. I believe that we bring amazing people onto and who keep listening to the podcast. And I get excited for where it goes. And I also get excited for when you sit on stages with him, and y'all able to meet, like, more peer to peer, that
Can I
yeah.
jump in?
Yeah,
Can I
please
jump
do.
in there and just, for the audience, and a lesson that was really hard for me to learn, especially, earlier in, getting into the professional world and getting more comfortable with speaking with people. You really, there's all those quotes. If anybody's a fan of The Office, when he quotes, Wayne Gretzky / Michael Scott, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. But really, like, ask for things and advocate for yourself. What I've learned is there's so many people who have gotten to good, places in lives, places where you've wanted to be because they asked that question of somebody who's where they wanted to be, and they're willing to pay it back and pay it forward. And you keep that going, and you approach everything with positive intent and just respect. I mean, the worst case, you get a no, or I'm too busy, or you know something like that, but you're really no better, you're really no worse off. And you gain nothing by keeping quiet, because as you mentioned, there may be somebody else that they can introduce you to or anything. And as long as you're in it for good, genuine connections, it'll start like a small snowball downhill, right?
I love it. I love it. Vincent, so where I want to take here is to go look at you as a creator, right? So we talked a bit about like Bookshelf Brilliance itself and what happens in it. Now I want to like take that, put it over to the side, and focus on you, right? Um, and focus on like how you show up as an outlier and and how you keep leaning into that. So what I got from you here is that like you're doing all these things and it's not your primary source of income, right? And so with that being said, like I think back to when I was in a position similar to that, and like looking to get started with different things and create things externally, but like I was like still at a job. I was trying to make things work, and I'd love to kind of speak from that side of things for a little bit. You created a book, you published a book, right? You also like created a podcast, and it's now like in multiple seasons, right? Um, Help me here, and like I think I want to like sit down for any outlier that's like just getting into the game, right? Or that is choosing to create an asset like you have, right? Whether they may be an entrepreneur, right, or making their own business going on, but they're like, oh, I think it's time for me to write this book, you know? And that book may or may not have anything to do directly with what it is that they're currently getting
Yeah.
paid for. I'm curious to you, like, what were like the biggest mental roadblocks that you ran into, if any, um, to actually start creating? You can choose. Let's choose the book first, and then we can
Yeah.
talk about the podcast. But like, because the book came first, right? That was like the
The
first
book
thing you put out.
the book came first. So
Yeah.
I always loved the idea of writing, of creating, of I really wanted to. I took journalism classes in high school, even took some classes in college around that because really thinking about sports, a big sports fan, and love the idea of getting to be like a sports talk radio host or something as like a dream job. Or I don't know if on ESPN I always watched Pardon the Interruption growing up. So Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon getting to speak with their buddies about about sports there. So I always had like random blogs, sports related, and I wrote for a Jets blog. I'm a New York Jets fan. That was hosted by USA Today, so it was an unpaid thing, but just something it was a passion of mine. I just liked it. It never seemed like work, and it helped me continue to write because like anything else in life, you only get better by actually doing it. Right? You don't get stronger by thinking about working out. Right? You have to actually put in the work. So constant writing, and then I listened to a lot of podcasts, avid reader, and there was an author, James Altucher, who has a blog, and he's self-published and a lot of things saying that like nobody can tell you no anymore in the world that we live in, and it's only gotten better. The barrier of entry has only went away more since the 2013 timeframe when I was going through this journey. And really the only mental block for me was getting into the habit of like, hey, if you want to write a book, like I had to write every day. So I came home from work and I had no children at the time. I was not married yet. So it was a lot easier from a time commitment standpoint. And I was just like, hey, I gotta write every day. I didn't give myself a limit, like say I have to have 500 words, 2,000 words. I didn't say anything. I just had to, write and keep the story going. Some days were spent on like rereading and re-editing, which I felt helped me. I had no blueprint on how to do this, but the consistency of doing it day in and day out. The mental block really came more from at first being scared to put that out into the world. It's very safe to like, hey, this is my hobby. I wrote this, audience of one, I like it. But to now put it out on social media so people that you grew up with see it, people, I shared it with people at work too that I know professionally now, like, are they going to like it? What are they gonna think about that? Which is all those voices in our heads. But I had good mentors. I'm lucky. I met somebody who worked with my uncle, who was an author on the side, doing it out of passion, and really spoke with him, multiple times. Was encouraged by my family to kind of do it, even some of my friends as well. And I was like, what the heck? And I kind of just ripped the band-aid off and put it out in the world. And I'm like, worst case, if people like, what's the worst case if people don't like it? I'm not gonna die, right? Like I did the hard work already, which was the easier part. Sometimes the work on things is easier. Sharing that with the world is where it gets tough. And then similarly, since then, I've always liked to have a creative avenue. So again, contributed to blogs, things like that. Was always writing. I never got the next book off the shelf. I wrote a lot of different types of books, first drafts of not really, and it would die on the vine type of thing. Never, got to like a few thousand words, things of that. Repicked it up later. And then I got this idea, on the podcast for Bookshelf Brilliance. I always loved the idea of podcasts. Avid podcast listener. I have a commute to work. I listen to mostly podcasts and then a little bit of music every now and then. And I'm like, I don't know how to create a podcast. Can I? Can I? And I'm like, now we have so many tools that are advantage, like ChatGPT. Um, and they really put it in a simple step. And I'm like, I got this idea. I'm gonna have fun making it. And even if I'm the only one that listens to it, like to me, it's better than watching Netflix, all night till I fall asleep. It's a creative avenue there that, I think I'm gonna selfishly learn something along the way. So went to ChatGPT. I'm like, how the heck do I start a podcast? How do I get it hosted and all that stuff? And that part, they did it. And again, the biggest mental hurdle was like, are people going to think I'm stupid? Are people going to think like, I have too much time on my hands or something? And I'm like, I don't care. I don't really care because this is something I want to do from my heart. I feel I have something to give. And the response that I got from people who were outside of even my immediate network was really, really positive. And I'm really glad that I did it again. Even it's not going to be something that makes me rich or even yet has made me much money. But I've strengthened some connections, and that's what I really did it for, and that was my goal. And I hope to be able to grow this just to have an impact and build more connections in the future.
Wow, like you've said already, you wrote a whole book about like the financial success not being the only levels of
Yeah,
success that's available for you. And like what I do like is that you're like for the intent that I decided to create this, we're actually in alignment with it, right? Just so you know, Vincent, you've entered into my world. And so I'm like, if you're good with it, I'm happy to help you grow all the different variations of success that you want to have, you know?
thank you.
Yeah, like I like well my mind's constantly thinking about you. It's really interesting actually in hearing you speak. Like I found myself like typing different things. There's a lot of different ideas that were flowing on onto like into my mind as you were saying. I was like, wow, this is one of the gifts that you have too. Like there's something about um a space that is being created through what you share that actually has sparked a bunch of different ideas. So do you mind if I share back some of those overall?
Yeah,
I'll share with you kind of what I was thinking, but like I think I will be honest, I think that it's less important than like just knowing that like there's something about you and the quality of how you choose to have conversation that can actually like create that space for people. You're gonna get what I got from this year, but that's because I'm thinking about it through the lens of my life and making my mental connections there. But I love that things were popping off, and that was really fun for me. Yeah, and I think different people have different ways of different things that happen when they story tell, so people like really draw you in. And what I got was like, oh, like I feel the spaciousness to like keep making connections based on what you said. I really loved no one can tell you anymore. No one can tell you no anymore in the world we live, right? And that was more than 10 years ago at the time when it was said. And but there's something in that statement I just feel like for us here as outliers, like nobody can tell you no anymore in this world. Like the barriers to entry are so low.
yeah.
And I think that's I like there's something about this that really captures me, which is like I've decided that the Outliers Edge podcast has actually become the Outliers Edge podcast network. And it's not even becoming, it already is. It's now the Outliers Edge podcast network. You heard it here first, like as of the actual declaration, right? But the reason that I say that is from two points. One, I would rather be the world's smallest and worst podcast network and at least be in the podcast network game and start to build myself as that. Like you said, like you want to write, you want to publish something, you got to write every day. Doesn't matter how much is there, you got to write, you know, because you
Hmm.
because you have to become a writer versus someone who is like thinking of becoming a writer. you know? And so I got that from here where it's like, oh, this network can't be a thing that I'm trying to work towards. It has to exist right now. That's how I work. It exists right now, and I am the owner of a podcast network. It has one show in it, you know.
Yeah.
It is this show, but it is also it's the first is the the flagship show of this network, and it's
But
true.
what you just said is the most important part. We all have great ideas. You can put it into practice. If you're a musician, get something recorded and get it onto YouTube, right? Like you know, you got to take the good with the bad. You may get some bad feedback, but that's how you could then perfect your craft, right? But if you're only keeping it to yourself, you have a gift, share it with the world, and most of the time, I would imagine you're going to be pleasantly surprised at what comes back at you.
Yeah, I have this book. Like, so I hear this and I'm like, there's a couple things that I just need to change about my own narrative. Like I've allowed a year ago, pretty much to the date, we wrote a book in my business here. I authored it, and someone on my team actually wrote it. We still need to go through editing processes and so on and so forth. But we have like 200 pages of a book here, and it's sitting on the shelf, the digital shelf. It's sitting in the folder because for two reasons. One, I'm like I think the biggest reason is that I actually really enjoyed the podcast stuff. Right. I realized that like I like to be in I like to create with people, and I was creating the book alone, you know. Like I went to that first. It should have been repurposed from the conversations rather than writing it like from a blank slate. The thing that comes out though is like it's like a part of me is like it also comes out to like the launching, like sharing it out there. I'm like, oh, do I really want to go through that process of launching it, quote unquote? As time goes on, I'm like, there's probably something else that's involved in it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I find like in these conversations, I want to say thank you to you, Vincent, because I feel like you put another brick on the road to actually getting this book out into the world. It's a good book, man. Like it's like
Yeah.
realistically, it's a good book. I just haven't been sharing it with people. It has bonuses and everything along with it. Like it's like I'm gonna mess around, but I just haven't been sharing it with people.
You gotta
Um,
rip the Band-Aid off, right? And
yeah.
don't be how about this? Don't be selfish and keep it to yourself.
That's it. I think that like in my mind, I'm like the amount of work I got to do to promote it feels more than I want to do. But
Yeah, and
like,
that's the part of anything with art. Sorry to cut you off
yeah,
there.
please.
That's tough. And at least with some of like I mentioned with the Chat GPT stuff being
Yeah,
able to help me figure out how to do the stuff that I don't know how to do, and it's not the reason I'm creating this.
yeah,
Can sometimes help you, but that's the stuff that ends up making it feel like work, and that's why like I've
yeah,
always approached my stuff of like, you know, uh, I want to do it. I'm building it for the connections, but the when you turn it the business side of stuff usually is the drag. I remember a lot. I think I have a pretty good memory, but I'm a big Zach Brown
yeah,
band fan,
yeah,
and they would always say at their shows like, "We play for free. We get paid to travel," type of thing,
yeah,
because they love art and creating. So there's every creative avenue. Like, yeah, it's cool to go all over the world, right, and play music for people, but it's also like, nice to probably stay in one place for a little bit, right, and keep your roots. So stuff like that can keep you grounded. But you know, hopefully once the podcast network gets off the floor, then you could hire people to do all that other stuff for you.
This is really interesting. So we're gonna start wrapping up our conversation, but you gave me something here that I want to play with here. So by the time you're listening to this, outliers, this might already be there, but I'll put this out into the world right now. I think this is where I'll go with it. Um, like in talking to you right now, I realize like, oh, I don't want to do the work of promoting it, but I'm like, I have this. I have a platform right now. And a lot of things I do is uh, you do it once and you get the benefit for years. That's why I'm like, we might be talking about this now, but like I still get from some of my other podcasts that I've done over the years, people still reach out to me and say, thank you, this was so beneficial. So, and I haven't made a new episode in 5 years on that one, you know? And so what gets me here is I'm like, oh, wait a minute. if I do want people to get the book, or I have a book I want to make, like I can just tell them about it here on the podcast. So at this very moment, Outliers, I do not have a link for you. But by the time you are listening to this here in the future, because technology gets to be so great, it will probably be inserted somewhere, and you can go ahead and listen to it. But I, um, Vincent, I'm realizing as I do this that this is me also documenting my journey. Right.
Hmm.
I like this is like this pot every day I talk to someone, I'm like, this is where I'm at right now. And this is who I am being, and this is what I'm trying to figure out right now. And I didn't notice it until quite recently, but I'm like, that's it. Like, I'm not hiding who I am. I'm not at the end of this game. And I hope to never actually ever reach it. After the Super Bowl, I want the Olympics. After the Olympics, I want like the All-Stars, like
Yeah.
whatever. Like I just never want it to end.
But
Um,
the word journey is so great, and I love that
yeah,
because life is a continuous journey, and there's no there's no end game. You shouldn't want there to be an end game. There's always going to be new stuff to enjoy. There's always going to be new art that maybe you want to create or consume. Think of the podcast, right? This wasn't a thing that long ago. Now, like how it's integrated in all our lives, and the inspiration for me behind that, my grandfather, who is one of the most physically fit and healthy, like 86-year-olds, like his whole thing is like he's constantly learning every day, even at his age. He doesn't want to, fall behind, but more so because that's what keeps him going, and that's why he's mentally young and maybe kept his body in better shape because the journey's not over, and there's so much things you can learn and grow as a person no matter where you are. Don't let age get in your way. Don't let anything really hold you back from whatever your journey is that you're going to customize to yourself.
I love it. I love it. All right, Vincent, we're at time here, so we're gonna start wrapping up for today. I'm grateful for you. The
Yeah.
the I like to end in through three different questions, right? The first question is for any outlier who's listening, like what's the way that they can continue down your journey, whether it's through Bookshelf Brilliance or something else? What's the best way that they can connect with you?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me is over Instagram right now. So you could do bookshelf_brilliance on Instagram, and also if you want to send me an email, bookshelfbrilliancevm. So for Vincent Monteleone vm@gmail.com. Send me an email. I love to connect with anybody. As I mentioned, that's really the goal in doing this is to continue to just build connections with smart people like yourself
Well, let's
and
play
your
that game.
audience.
Yeah, absolutely, outliers. Reach out there. Vincent, let me ask you, so we do this conversation and we're here for others, but we're also here for ourselves. And I'm curious for you, what's one insight that you are leaving from this conversation for yourself? What's the thing that you got out of this conversation?
Yeah, no, I what I got out of this is, even more so than what I was saying around, intentionality and, nobody can tell you no. You embodied that by saying, I'm a podcast network, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. And really just saying, like, again, back to what I know is true is like most of the time it's you who's giving yourself that no, right? Who's saying the no to you, not others. And the imaginary ghost of people aren't gonna like this, so they're gonna think I'm silly, right? So you really showed me that by putting it into action. As much as like I try to live that way, there's always there's still that voice there, but you're saying it in front of your audience, and now I know you're gonna come through because you put it in the universe.
That's it. Like I appreciate that reflection, just so you know, because like I felt in my body that like it wasn't just a verbal thing. I'm like, oh, Vincent is a man of integrity and character, right? And he has heard it, and there's something in there where I'm like, and he sees it and he believes it, and it is true. And so at this point, it's like, great. Like from now on, like that's it. I will never not be running a podcast network, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
And for your personal goals, anybody listening to this, a lot of times it's only you that's going to keep yourself accountable, right? If you have a day job where you get a paycheck, right, you're going to have your managers and your bosses there who are going to keep you accountable to that. But if you want to, become healthier and start working out, you're not going to get in trouble. Like your doctor or whatever can't really hold you accountable to just put you on medicine or something. Similarly, if you want to start writing, it's only you that can hold yourself accountable. So whatever measure that will help you hold yourself accountable, enact it. And for me, it's like I tell people the same way you are. I'm like, hey, I'm starting this podcast. I'm starting. So then I have to come through with it because they're going to ask me, hey, you said you're starting a podcast. Where's the link? Can I listen to anything yet? Or you say, hey, I'm going to the gym every day, and they actually, how's the gym been, right? So put that stuff out there. So whatever helps hold you accountable, so you can achieve your goals. Again, what you want, your custom journey.
Oh, I love this here. I'm not working for anyone right now, but I would still say that like what you said applies all around. Like I really am leaving here. It's like there's no barriers. There are no barriers right now. Like it has never been easier to create or do what it is that you want. And like even in the working context, my thing would be like there's no barrier to keep you from saying I want that next promotion or I want the promotion to
Yeah.
like I it might mean you have to, like to your point, put into work. You might have to do double time. You might have to go and
Yeah.
have more conversations. You might like there's like it's not gonna just come, but there's no barriers to stop you from researching, learning, reaching out to people who have that. Like you can just do it. You like, oh, I want to go into a new job. It's like, well, I don't have anything that like available for that. Well, then, again, like, you can start a podcast and just start reaching out to people who have that job. And sooner or
Yeah.
later, these other things come in. So I just really feel like I'm walking away from this conversation being like, no one can tell you no anymore. Like it's
Yeah.
like
And
it just doesn't work.
the financial element is also been removed. So if we take like the
Ooh.
podcast, for example, most of us, I would imagine if you're listening to this, you have a laptop, you have some form of headphone that you don't need to have a $500 microphone or something. Or if you wanted to, I bought a $30 microphone off of Amazon. That was the only expense to get started there. And I already had, the laptop. I probably could have used my AirPods, but I was like, if I do any video, I wanted like an old school looking mic for it. So again, like the financial element is also removed, which was a big barrier in previous generations, I'm sure, because you had to take the financial risk. Here, yes, it's your time, but hopefully it's some form of art, some form of creation that really speaks to your soul, and at least you're making it for an audience of one yourself.
Okay, Vincent. We're gonna like we're riffing on this. I'm loving this. Outliers, you're hearing this, like you're hearing this energy here, which is like do something with this conversation. I think that's really where it is. Do something with this conversation. And I know that a lot of you listen to this are already in the game, right? And we're still talking to you. We're still like we can still grow. We can still make that choice. We can still shift our identity. We're gonna jump off here with the last question I ask people here, which is the time capsule question, Vincent. And it goes like this. I'd love for you to, you have a lot of wisdom right now in this moment. And I'd love for you to leave a message for yourself to listen to in 10 years, right? So like, what's the message you want to leave for yourself to remind yourself of something in 10 years?
Yeah, in 10 years. Wow, that's a deep question there. So from 10 years from now, I hope that I am a different person, but have always remained true to the character and integrity that I have. Those are like my guidepost of life. So I'm obviously, if I'm not a different person in 10 years, then I failed. I haven't learned, I haven't grown, I haven't, matured into, be 44 in 10 years from now. But I hope to look back on a man who has done everything, stayed true to his word, has delivered for himself, for his family, and has made others proud, and continue to make meaningful connections with like-minded individuals like yourself.
That's the game right there. That's the game right there. Well, Vincent, I appreciate you. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for playing the game that you play. Um, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. All right.
Thanks again for having me. This was
Absolutely.
awesome.